Happy Friday, Accelerated Algebra. Today we're talking about the quadratic formula. So just as a quick recap, we've done a few different ways of solving quadratic so far. First we did factoring, and then we did square roots, and then we did completing the square, which kind of uses square roots. And today is our first day with the quadratic formula, our new thing. So the quadratic formula is used to solve equations in this form. So notice that it's set equal to 0. That's important, just like factoring. And the solutions are, on your agenda for today, there's a link to the quadratic formula song, which is a fun way to remember this formula. It's pretty important, comes up a lot. Okay, let's jump into some examples. X squared plus 2x minus 10 equals 5. The first thing we're going to do is set equal to 0. And then identify what the A, B, and C are. Be careful with signs. Now we just plug into our formula. That's all there is to that. We just simplify from here using our square roots from yesterday. So be really careful when you're doing this part. Make sure that you pay attention to the order of operations. My solutions then are x equals -5 and x equals +3. I'm going to solve by factoring and make sure I get the same thing. Pause the video and try solving by factoring and make sure that you get the same thing. Awesome. 3 and -5, that's exactly what we got when we solved with quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is great, though, because it works when factoring doesn't. So let's do one more example so that you can see that. The quadratic formula is awesome for this one because you can factor it. Won't work to factor. And completing the square would be pretty annoying for this one, having to divide everything by 3 and then divide by 2 and square. So the quadratic formula is a good start. It's already set to 0. I've identified my A, B, and C. Now I've got to remember my formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. -2 makes a +2. Now just be careful as you go through these simplifying steps. The square root simplifying from yesterday, I'm going to write this as x equals 2 plus 112 is 16 times 7. So I'm going to write that as the square root of 16 times the square root of 7 over 2. Remember that part's my perfect square. And this one is 2 minus, I'm going to do the same thing. So this is x equals 2 plus 4 root 7 over 2. And this is x equals 2 minus 4 root 7 over 2. And we can simplify since everything is divisible by 2. Here I've got x equals 1 plus 2 root 7. Here I've got x equals 1 minus 2 root 7. And if I'm going to approximate those to the nearest tenth, I'm going to write this as about 2.1 and about -1.4. Sometimes you might see it written as the square root, and sometimes you might see it written as the decimal approximation. Awesome. Good job.